Hey, what's up, guys? This is Bangers, 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 and I'm Chuck Sutton.
Fam, what is cracking? It is your girl, Lillian Francis. And you will never believe it, but today I'm here with the Chuck Sutton, who is one of the coolest music producers. You may or may not know of him. If you've heard of him, you probably didn't forget it because he has such an incredibly inventive, amazing, charismatic sound that I'm so genuinely excited to explore. So today we're going to be looking into his project Bling and dissecting it. Hi, Chuck. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You dug Chuck Bling. You dug Bling out from the abyss today, so we're going to be taking like the first look at it together in a long ass time, right? This is a project from 2018.
2018. I haven't looked into it. I finally found the project file 5 minutes before this recording, so it'll be really cool to look in there and see what I was doing and see what I'm doing now.
Hell yeah. Okay, sick. Well, let's dive on into the project, yeah?
Boom. Boom.
Splash.
Okay, so this is the project.
There she is.
Just to walk you through it. So the most of the first half of this beat is just Omnisphere, and I want to know why I have like 3. So let's see.
Yeah.
This one's more the fuller one, so I guess these together gives it that weight. And then this was another patch that's like
Nice.
way more sustained, so I guess together they're talking to each other.
So those are just Omnisphere patches. It looks like you didn't do really any processing on them.
Which is crazy because the amount of processing I do now, I've gone through a dip where it's like, it seems like here I didn't do much processing. And then I went through an era where I noticed that and almost tried to force doing too much processing. And I learned a lot. And now I force too much processing, but like in a way where I'm just having fun with it. It's really wild for me to sit here and see 2 effects right here. I'm kind of like,
yeah.
I was just in it. I was like, I trusted the Omnisphere patch and kind of moved forward. When a sound doesn't need it, it doesn't need it. And it seems like any additional processing I have is just some like cleanup stuff. So like making sure the bass is in mono. I love using multiband dynamics, just like a almost like an EQ3 with the option of doing compression, but I'm not doing any compression here. But I love the ability to solo. This is a big part of me learning how to mix, is I would put a multiband on the master and I would like solo the mids, solo the highs, and solo the lows, and like learn those in songs that I liked. Just like how intense that was in comparison to the other parts. Is the snare like really resonant in comparison to other things? And I would keep doing that. And then we have the last thing. This is like the main part of the track.
Yeah, that flute.
The flute. Another Omnisphere patch. There's the first section.
Hit so hard. Okay, so great. We have the opening. We're just Omnisphere, guitars, etc., with filters opening up. Drop everything out, and then your vocals lead it into the verse.
Right.
Bishop Polly moving ways you don't expect. I can die, left and right. Rookie running through the motions, crown first, another jest.
So the most prominent thing, and this is definitely something I got from the Soundcloud world, is you introduce a sound that's either like drowned out in reverb or has a very long release time to get the audience comfortable. And then short release time.
Oh, yeah.
Same exact chords, same patch, but it has this like funk pocket.
Totally. It's like kind of like a medium attack, but then a really quick release. So it's like, it's got almost like a future bassy energy to it of like that like swelling, which is something
slight
that
reverse
I
feeling.
love.
Yeah. So the one thing I'm noticing is when I play this and then I solo the first layer, it's like most of the idea, but it's missing this like this almost feels like the unmixed version of this one sound. The top end is gritty in this way where like the only way I see it in my mind is like when someone takes a bite out of a cookie in a cartoon. I feel like that's what the highs sound like. It just feels like something is like was taken away. So then there's just some breath sound.
tight. I would have
Yeah.
honestly never thought to use that in a track, but it sounds so good.
And then we also have, so it's
Yeah.
kind of where the weight and the fun of the track is
Yeah.
all in the drums. Looks like it's a decap snare, shout out.
Ay.
And then a boolean for, oh, I know what's happening, or do I? Why is this automated? Does it leave somewhere? So sometimes what I do is I like to put 2 different samples in the same instrument rack, and then I would turn them on and off if I wanted variation in the same drum sound. This hi-hat is, like you're saying, it has no EQ on it. It looks like the overall group has some overdrive and stuff, but I think I was also experiencing
Ooh.
a little bit of automating the decay.
Nice.
And then medicine hi-hat with some erosion that didn't need to be there.
There
That
you
was my
go.
favorite trick. It's like emotional support effects. You're like, I feel like I did something.
Girl,
it
I
looks
know
like-
that.
That's cool.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so here's what's happening. I put a slight delay on this hi-hat, so they're like flamming a little bit. This one's an octave up or some higher pitch, and it has a tremolo that's fading in and out, and it's creating this effect. And it sounds like I'm sitting there doing this like thing, but it turns out I was like, I'm gonna just let it do it for itself.
That's really
I haven't
cool.
done that since. So this is something unique
Yeah.
to this track, and that's really cool. When I've established an overall groove, I'll go in and try to make every hit feel slightly different.
Okay.
Instead of like but being like
Cool.
and having like slight variance. So it looks like I had 3 hi-hats, mainly just trying to keep a groove, or 4 really. So all of them together. So even though it's just like hitting the same thing,
Yeah.
there's like slight variance is what I was going for with the snare. Yeah.
So then you have a 10-second delay. Yeah, I'm curious how you like delay your snare, your kick.
So in this era, I think I was a little bit more comfortable making sure that everything was definitely going to work together, quantized, and then start shifting things. Nowadays, I'll make entire beats without like turning on the metronome. I like when things fall into the snare a little quicker than you'd expect. So instead of 1, 2, 3 for a but, it's like
Okay, so you like a quick snare. That's like when
Yeah.
I'm like never really sure when I want to get like a groove. I'm like, should I delay my snare or should I keep my
Right.
snare on? Should I have an anchor, right? Like make sure the kicks are always on so that the
Right.
snares can play or the hi-hats can play. Is that something that you think about too, or do you like
100%.
move the kicks and the snare?
It depends on the feeling of the song, but I do agree with the first point of like, let's get an anchor. Whether it's a quantized kick and an early snare will sound the same as if you have a quantized snare and a kick that's like shifted the same distance. Like they're gonna have the same thing, but I feel like it comes down to what makes me the most comfortable in that moment. So there's times where I have moved the snare forward and kept the kick quantized. There's times where I maybe it's like I started the song with the snare and then just started shifting things around it. So
Yeah.
I think whichever one I decide is the anchor is up to that day, but I fully agree that I like having one before doing some sort of stuff like that.
Cool. And then the kicks are pretty. Can we look in the clip view for those? Those are, I mean, aside for the delay, which we have, they're just right on the grid.
Yeah, these are perfectly quantized. This is so this is so fun for me to look back at because I'm like, it's just so straightforward. My project files used to just be healthy. And that's really nice to look at.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then the bass, instead of applying one intense distortion, I love applying multiple effects subtly to tone the shape. Pedal is where it gets that little thing on the top. So
That's the
I
icing.
think oftentimes when I try to get something this smooth before, I try to get these harmonics from the synthesizer itself. Maybe I'll take a saw wave and low pass it and then try to get some of those to shine through. But like taking something as smooth as a sine wave and then using the effects to bring out more harmonics feels way more cohesive than like straight up, for me, for my sound at least, than if I were to go over to the saw wave and low pass it and try to get all these harmonics and distortions to line up from there. So I really like using stuff like pedal. It's at like 23%.
Yeah.
So all the way. It's really in your face. Without it, just enough.
Wait,
And
why
I
does
know-
it sound so cool? What's up with the? What are you automating? What's happening?
the pitch bend. There we go.
Oh shit! Really? That's it?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it looks like I set it to 12 in here, and I just drew some, I just drew some lines.
So it's just we're just going up an octave. Nice.
Yeah,
It
I
had
mean,
so much energy.
I'll go and do a pitch bend, and then as soon as I get that note established, so I didn't do this on purpose, because that one is like all atonal. I always did enough of an envelope that a brain goes, that's the note.
Yeah.
So simple. So yeah, and then I guess the last thing here is the vocals.
Back.
Yeah, I love the way you bring in the harmonies and like how they're processed differently, and it's fucking tight.
Polly moving ways you don't expect.
And here's
Corpus on a vocal.
On the vocal.
Cool.
I wanted a little bit of stereo information on my vocals, and I knew that Corpus could do that.
Polly moving ways you don't expect. Polly moving ways you don't expect. Polly.
It just adds a little bit of widening that is
Yeah.
not necessarily like a chorus or like a doubler and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a cool quality to your voice for sure. What are the harms?
But yeah, I was about to double check right now. There might just be one EQ. I wish I lived in a world where I could put one EQ.
Apparently
nowadays.
you do.
Perhaps.
We need to back up though. Like literally back up, because I want to know when you have the first not drop. Can you break that down for a second? Because that's something that I j'adore that you do.
The not drop.
The not drop.
Polly moving ways you don't expect.
Yeah. When is that kick coming in?
So the kick starts on the upbeat.
Oh.
I think the chords and the feeling, the flute getting a shorter release time drops you into the world already. So you're already kind of knowing that you're bouncing into something new, so it doesn't feel like a disappointment. And then right when you're already kind of getting used to it, you get hit with like everything. I would say it's like having a dessert where like the flavor kicks in like 2 seconds after you start eating it, and it's just surprise of like all these combinations start hitting you, as opposed to like the most basic birthday cake where you're like, okay, that's sweet. Cool, got it. I knew what I was about to get. So you already get. And I think it wouldn't have worked if I didn't let the flute still be that anchor.
Okay, so that plays out. What's our next part?
I'm not spending much, I've been saving up stacks, looking like almanacs. The aim and they cut it so dark in my heart, but the dogs are quicker than.
Oh, I love this part of the instrumental so much. Like,
It's wild.
if I could, I would have never put vocals on this part. But I love the way it sounds just like this.
Bro,
So-
okay, what's happening?
So we're starting off with, here's the Chuck patch. Okay, I was like, when did I start going crazy?
I did notice either the tracks on this song have no processing or like 9 EQs that don't look like they're doing anything.
Yep.
Oh, you're changing the decay time?
You're right, it does close the synth release. So like, if I do this,
Okay. What's that macro automating?
so this macro, when it's down here, it's bringing the attack a little bit forward, so it's a little softer. It's bringing back that release, so it's snappy, and it's bringing down the filter. This is it without the filter on. Similar to how like someone who plays violin can play these long sustained notes and then switch to this like not just a different playing style but a whole different texture. So instead of me just focusing on texture, I wanted it to almost feel like a different playing style. So if I turn off the filter, it's that. But if I turn on the filter, it becomes this plucky thing.
Okay, so you've got 3 things happening. You have the filter changing. Can we see the filter?
Yeah, of course. So it looks like we have right here.
Oh my god, teacher Chuck comes out.
Yep, Teacher Chuck is right here. I learned how to use these things.
Cool.
So when it's up, that frequency goes all the way up. And this was something where instead of the the drop revealing sounds like the bass. It was like the not drop sensation was me not closing this filter until that moment. This is the beginning of the track right here.
That's so
Same
cool,
one.
dude. I'm stoked on that. Hell yeah. And I also want to know how the fuck you came up with that progression.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. So, this is what I did. I need to do this more, but I can see right there that I just had just the straight up chord, like the 2 chord progressions, and then I'll go like. And I was just like drawing in notes to add more energy.
Yeah.
Also, what am I doing for the 808? Okay, so the main foundation of this bass sound is mono. Every once in a while, I have a Haas effect overtone that's stereo, and I'm distorting both of them together. And Corpus has a function where it can listen to your MIDI notes and tune itself to the actual MIDI notes you're playing.
Yeah.
So then there's vinyl distortion. You hear that like octave up as opposed to... It has a little bit more.
Fattens it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just like the little sliver too. I think it's interesting. Just like the 100 to 150. It's kind of this like low fat, but not too low. That's it.
Low fat. We're actually talking about food now. But
Fuck low fat, dude. Creamy.
Right. So it seems like it turns on in certain moments. And then there's that thing. Is this reversed? Yes.
Ooh.
So
Oh, it's
I
just that.
took the roll and I reversed it, and then I
Nice.
added some grain delay for this extra. And it like throws itself and catches itself again. And then there's something else that just like growled at me. What is that? Yeah, check this out. So you have this sound. I was obsessed with bubbles at this time.
Okay, great.
So you have this sound that around its regular range, it just sounds like some little clicks. But when I turn on the frequency, this one is key track. So I'm going to turn off the key tracking.
Oh.
But then I turn it on.
Ah, nice. Cool use of key
And
tracking.
it gives it this like metallic bubbles and stuff.
Nice. Hell yeah, brother.
So it looks like I used that for like a transition. I think the first half of the track was something where I was purely in my songwriting element. And then I was like, wait, I really want to have some like SoundCloud fun.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the track is when I start implementing that as much as I can. I think my newest music strives to be both of these ideas happening at the same time. If I can let both concepts breathe the right way, then there's more chances for someone to be exposed to crazy new sounds, and then also chances for someone to have something to hum and dance to and sing along to.
Yeah, that's new.
So I have a feeling that if I turn off the LFO, it's gonna sound normal.
What was that? That sounded so good though. That was fucking tight.
There's probably a phaser going stupid. Here's the phaser going stupid. Okay, so I'm gonna turn all this off. Very basic sound. It looks like if I turn off this, should probably be just like sine waves.
Okay.
I did a little bit of FM.
Oh, and you're automating the rate and the amount too of.
So this is when the LFO goes.
Okay. And then what's the LFO assigned to? Are we doing pitch?
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's just kind of like flipping up the pitch. And at this time, I was really excited to tell more like animated stories through the music. So what was happening is I said, zooming off in your dad's whip. The song is about like being smart and saving money. So the idea that I like took your dad's car was like me saving money. It starts as a chord and it turns into the car starting up.
Oh, nice.
So that to me was like the motor of the song.
That damn new. What is that?
Ooh, and I bet I whipped that LFO a little bit right there. You know what's happening? It's because you see how short this MIDI note is?
Uh-huh.
So this LFO is only wiggling for as long as the actual MIDI note is playing. If I hold it down, too much. But if I tap it and let go, the LFO is stopping.
Oh.
It's stopping when these notes stop, but the release time of the actual sound is longer. So it's like if I tap this note and let go, there's a trail, and the LFO is only activating as long as I'm like pressing on this note. So when I let go, it goes back to its original pitch. And so it seems that I got away with something that felt a little bit like a pitch bend wiggle, like a keyboardist had the pitch wheel going. Because for that moment, it's only wiggling when for the length of the note, and these are still short notes.
Sick. Well, let's see. Let's try another project. What else do we have?
I think the only new thing we have
Probably moving ways
is
you don't expect. Back on the thigh, left and right. But keep running through the motions, ground first.
so this is the same section here repeated with reverb.
Cool. We sink underwater.
And then I remember I didn't feel like making a bass. So I took this like violin organ kind of sound and just pitched it down and distorted it. So that was just changing the feeling of these chords. And then I let the chords bring it out the end.
Told you stay away.
Like these, like the ones from the original, but it has like the dun, 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 dun.
A couple things in particular that I would love to highlight today that I love about Chuck's music is he has this ability to keep the audience on their toes by constantly adding in new elements and deceiving where you think the beat's gonna go and where the melody's gonna go, and it's always incredibly engaging.
I started as a kid trying to make dubstep, and the wildest thing about trying to make that genre as opposed to hip hop and house and R&B and folk and stuff, as a kid you feel this pressure that before you can even start working on a song, you have to have your sound. I felt back then that if I didn't learn how to make my own sounds and have them stand out, I wasn't even ready to start just exploring like vocals, chords, drums. I didn't even know about production. I was more obsessed with like kind of just like an after school hobby, like how do I get that sound? I learned a new process today. Did I get it? No. And that's when I kind of kept digging back and forth. It was just to get the sound in my head. I kind of did things the opposite way, and it messed me up for a couple of years because my progress was very slow in terms of the songwriting, the music making process. And so this was the first album where I actually started to focus more on the songs than just showing off the production. And I feel like this is one of the songs off of the project that I think has like the best harmony with that. For me growing up, and I would say now, that moment of getting to the new empty part of the song and being like, what do I do here? That's when I get the most nervous, and that's actually the moment I try to avoid at all costs. And so from those early days, I would make my most craziest, like the hook first. Like I would make the drop, I would make the whatever, it was gonna be the fireworks.
Yeah.
That way I had a reference of what to build into, and it became a lot more subtractive to work on the intro. One of the very first things I did when learning Ableton is I went through every single audio effect on sounds I was familiar with, like my voice, kicks, 808s, whatever, go through every single effect, and instead of looking at the manual definition, I'd look at what do these feelings mean to me.
Whoa.
Like corpus was an adjective with like weird feelings, and it wasn't like a stereo delay like synthesis whatever. It was just like I would twist knobs and be like, oh, that did stereo imaging, or like that sounded like Sophie. Okay, cool. So then when I'm working on a track and maybe I'm scribbling and I think the song starts to sound a little bit like dark, or I had this fluttery chord that I really want to like shock the listeners, I know what flavors would contrast. And so these audio effects kind of become feelings. However, I feel like now that I've built those emotional definitions, it's been way more beneficial to start digging into the manuals, start digging into the why and the how, because that just like makes it feel more precise. I think the one thing that I've learned after all these years from that project to now is like sonics will always enhance the story you're telling, but like the story has to be there.
Yeah.
So
Well, that brings us to the end, yeah? Did we get through it all?
100%.
That's crazy. Dude, thank you so much for taking us through this project and showing us how it is made. And it's really fun to see a simple one too, because I know that your production has like, you know, ballooned since this, and you've learned so many techniques and, you know, tricks along the way. But it's such a like simple idea that's also not really simple. And it was so great to break it down. So Chuck, thank you so much for coming on Bangers, Bangers, Bangers.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so cool to see that I have an earlier snapshot of my music where it not gotten to this really crazy point that I'm known for, but it still had the essence.
Well, I cannot wait to hear your new music. My ears are ready. I'm stoked.
Of course.
All right, catch you later. Bye.
Bye.